Album came out on Friday.
Slim Shady.
Slim Shady.
Death of Slim Shady.
The death of Slim Shady.
Certainly a death.
It was.
All right.
Oh,
I think that's crazy for someone who spent their whole life, all these kids have been doing it since they were teenagers, maybe even before that, to say when you hit this certain age, stop.
If you just wrote on a piece of paper what Big Sean's career is, all of that equals superstar.
let's get into it because we got a lot to talk about. Eminem. Album came out on Friday.
Shady.
Slim Shady.
Death of Slim Shady.
The death of Slim Shady.
Certainly a death.
It was.
All right. I see where I see how this is gonna go now.
In case you guys missed the memo, Death of Slim Shady previously released singles Houdini, Toby featuring Babytron, Big Sean, album loaded with features Jelly Roll, Skylar Grey, familiar face, known for cooking up big
came
records
back.
with
They did
Always a welcome voice.
a lot of Dr. Dre production. I think freaking Easy Mill, that's an artist line, The Shady, he was on the record as well. First impressions of this album, thoughts?
I like it. We're talking about this in the office. My favorite, I guess, later stage Eminem album is Kamikaze. It's 12 tracks. It's very focused. He's talking about his detractors, some personal things in his life, like the breakup of D12, and he's like putting the final thoughts on his relationship with, I believe, is his baby mother. Great. Amazing rapping, good features, modern production. He has like Take Keith on there. This, I feel like ever since then he's been kind of like retreading that ground, and this to me is him, I think, finally ending it, and like this is it. He's gonna move on after this, but I think it's too long, but it's good.
That's fair. Well, out of 10, what would you give it?
Out of 10, I'll give it like a 7.
It's modest. That's modest. Kyle.
Oh.
Look, I mean, you have thoughts.
Yeah. Thoughts on the Eminem album? I agree that it's too long. I did feel myself getting kind of fatigued by the time I hit Guilty Conscience 2. Yeah. But luckily enough, that song is strong enough that it got me through the hump for the rest of the album. I'll say that out of all the tracks, that probably is my favorite. I do like Toby outside of, I think the hook is really stupid, but I do think the rapping is very technically impressive on the track, and I like what it does in terms of streamlining a kind of like Detroit lineage with the features and M himself on that track. In terms of the overall concept, I think that he could have done a better job tightening it up. I think he meanders a little bit, and also like in terms of killing off Slim Shady and trying to figure out like why that was a crutch that he used as a character and why that was something that he feels it's no longer in the moment for. We've gotten glimpses of that a lot over the past like 4 or 5 records. I feel like from the second Marshall Mathers LP with The Monster onwards, he's been playing around with that concept, kind of like figuring out what to do with Slim Shady for so long that for this to be the culmination of it, just doesn't feel grand anymore because we've been getting hints of that for basically the better part of a decade. Right. So for this to be the grand, murdering of Slim Shady, it's like, oh, okay. I'm actually not convinced that you won't dip back into that on the next record because you do seem to be talking in circles a little bit in this latter half of your career. I will say kind of just overall, I think the record is missing a bit of lightness from him. Even in the way that he delivers certain things, just the timbre of his voice has kind of this growl to it now that I think doesn't really serve some of his punchlines in the best way. But he's always good for a nice laugh every now and then. I did like the P Diddy line, the rapper with no P, like that was hard. But also like too many name drops across the album. Yeah. By the time we got like halfway through, it felt like he was doing the name drops on purpose to kind of just like have something that people will latch on to. And it didn't really feel like there was a purpose behind him doing those puns. Like by the time we get like the 6th Caitlyn Jenner drop on top of like the song railing on pronouns, it's like, this is tired. Like, not that it's not serving the character of Slim Shady well, it just feels like super retreaded ground that doesn't feel fresh enough for me to sit through an hour of it or an hour plus of it. But overall, I mean, I'd probably give it somewhere around like a 5 or a 6. Good stuff here and there in flashes, but I wasn't super enamored with it as a whole.
Okay. Trevor, pluses and minuses?
I mean, yeah, I think to Kyle's last point, the subject matter is interesting in the sense of the larger names that he brings up, because Diddy is interesting because obviously the Diddy stuff is so relevant, so hanging over the cloud of hip hop. Like the Caitlyn Jenner references, I was so surprised at, because I mean, Caitlyn Jenner has not been in the news, in the mix.
Christopher Reeves, man.
Yeah,
found his way on this album too. Yeah,
yeah.
And then the references are
that red
like
Ruby.
he brings up Columbine. It's like
you
rapped about that on the first Marshall.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like 90.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, I was a little like that one in particular. I was surprised to hear that name so many times on this album. I do think that in general, yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty solid. Like if you expect something new from Eminem in terms of, he's branching out and trying a new sound, a new style, whatever, this is not going to be the album for you. Mm-hmm. I think probably maybe going into that, people should have known that it's about the death of Slim Shady is what it's called. Like if you weren't there for the Slim Shady era, it's going to be hard to jump into this mix. Mm-hmm. But in general, I think, yeah, I mean, a lot of the features that we named are actually, I think, really good. I think shout out to Jid in particular. I thought what he did on Fuel
murdered it.
Was
very, very
was just vicious. So vicious in a good way. So I like that. But there is something that seems, I guess retread. We've seen a lot of this before. It's I think even going back before Marshall Mathers up here, I think back to sort of the revival moment where he started to be a little more introspective or tried to be or grapple with some of the things that, basically that whole album is a response to Relapse, which is, this sort of, I think probably one of his worst albums that most people would pretty much put that, at the bottom of the pack. But
I think Revival is his worst.
You think Revival's worse than Relapse?
Way worse.
Really
Revival
way
is
worse.
Revival's pretty bad.
Revival's terrible.
Wait, what?
I said Revival was pretty bad.
Damn, everybody.
I liked River. I like the Ed Sheeran.
I did like
Niggas
River
was
and
this
Walk on Water.
Niggas was this close to talking about Revival being album of the year. Like people,
who's people
at the Grammys? Y'all remember that? Like there was that
Oh.
whole thing with like Arcade Fire. Like people were like, "Oh man, this is M's redemption. Like he gonna get it."
We're talking about the
Well, that was the
Grammys, by way,
marketing.
not the culture.
That was
I
a
get,
good marketing.
yes. Lest we forget the Grammys and the are very different. But in any case, yeah. I mean, I thought a little long, and after Guilty Conscience, I wasn't sure where we were going because I thought we kind of hit the climax of this album, and now we got a couple more tracks. I did like the Skylar Grey, like Haley record. I thought that was something that was at least something at least a little different, like to see him put this sort of future cast on it. And obviously, I mean, growing up with Haley, like basically through all of his records, I thought that was a nice sort of bow if this is going to be the last album or whatnot. And obviously we saw her get married this year, and we know she's sort of, moving on in her own life. So I thought that was a clean touch. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think kind of what everybody said. Like we've seen some of these things before. There are some new glimpses, some fun things there, but I don't know. I mean, I think maybe Kyle's right. Maybe we needed a little more fun, playful touch. Like even if it's not going to be the Slim Shady, macabre kind of stuff, there is a real weight to his voice, and it sounds like a lot of this stuff is just obviously really sat with him for a long time. But
yeah,
it's almost just like is it even fun anymore? Like is this a chore, an expectation? I mean, the weight of what people put on you that you feel like you have to live up every time to be this greatest MC.
Well, he raps it. He says that on the album.
Yeah, I was gonna
say.
Yeah,
there's like a bar where he's like, people expect you to reinvent the wheel every time you drop an album, but these other rappers, basically can't rap in the way that I can rap, and people, applaud them. But I think for him, it's since Kamikaze, which was itself a response to the response that Revival got, and he was like lashing out at like Charlamagne the God and other rappers who said that album sucked, and people saying that he fell off and that he was like that he no longer had it. He's like been in that mode for a while now. Like he's been in that mode of like, I'm still amazing, like I wrote Stan, don't forget that. I'm still ill with it, and I hope now that he's gotten it out of his system and that he can, like, to your point, like just get back to enjoying rapping. Because Eminem loves rap.
Yeah.
The guy like loves rap. So I hope this album is like him finally being like, all right, it's done.
Also, my dumb ass, I'm getting my reads mixed up. I was talking recovery.
I'm about to say, no way it was revival.
Not revival. I was relapse.
Try to clean that up real
recovery.
quick.
Recovery was good. Yeah.
I was like, why is everybody talking this song? Like, I was like, oh, it's recovery.
Yeah,
That's
recovery was amazing.
That's
a great album.
that changes the whole.
We'll allow you to recover.
To clean that. Oh, that's good. That's good.
See what you did there.
Yeah. Okay, you listen.
But no, shout out to M. Looking like he may be poised for a big week. So let's see what happens.
What would you give it?
I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. Some of the highlights for me were Toby gave us, he shot us out on the record about not being happy about being number 5 on the GOAT list. That's why I still feel like he has that competitive edge.
Yeah.
He still has that chip on his shoulder. I thought Fuel was amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to JID. And the temporary record you're talking about with Skylar Grey was good too. I was a huge fan of Haley's, what was it called? Haley's song on the Eminem show. Yeah. So to kind of see that evolution from there to where she's all grown up now, I think it's super dope. So yeah, let's see what happens when we get the final tally.
Yeah, I guess 2 more things on the M album. The Jelly Roll song for me felt like a missed opportunity. I think that when I listen to that song, I just kind of want to play the Jelly Roll track instead, like his Save Me. I think if it was a completely original song and them writing a new hook or him just finding some kind of common ground between their 2 sounds that still felt fresh, I would have rathered that than what we did get from that. And then on the topic of the name drops again, it was like, I feel like some of the name drops were really cop-outs. I feel like if we were really going to play into this being the last stand of Slim Shady, he should have called out names that actually hold weight in the current culture.
Some new ops.
Like outside of Diddy, because that feels like a target that's relatively easy because, he has all these cases out and we know what the public opinion on him is. Right. But like, no name drop for Taylor, no name drop for Beyonce, no name drop for people who are actually, major cultural figures in the way that he used to do when he was in his Slim Shady prime. I feel like that would have been a bit more interesting than like, Caitlyn Jenner 7 times. But
a Beyonce drop would have been
nuts.
Would have been.
I think he would.
Like, what could you
say? But it's like
Taylor, not Beyonce.
Huh?
Like a Taylor would have made sense.
Yeah. And Beyonce was on Walk on Water too.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's also friendly. Not Eminem rapping. It's Slim Shady.
Well, I mean, like if to make an analog to like old Slim Shady, he had like his beef was with like what he considered these false pop idols, and I think. Shots at Taylor, but I think she would fall more in that camp.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have to be like a diss. It could have just been like a pun first. If we're gonna use these names, like use the names.
He just doesn't. There's a good chance that Eminem like doesn't know what is going on. This guy made a Columbine bar. And it's
Fair enough.
When I heard that, I was like, this guy really thinks it's like 1999.
He's just up in Detroit, just chilling.
Crazy.
You know nothing about tortured poets. I envy him.
Yo.
The one thing I will say with Eminem, he showed that you could still be in your early 50s. I was gonna say late 50s. He would have came after me. I would have been a new wop on this album. He proved that AJ not but a number. Because the brother 51 dropping this album, it's kind of becoming a recurring theme in hip hop, especially this year. Common and Pete Rock, in his early 50s, just put out an album. LL Cool J set to drop his album, his first one, I think in maybe 12 years. He's going to be dropping in September. And then Nas, him and Primo supposed to link up for a potential album. So the commonality we're seeing is rappers in their 50s still putting out music. So I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Like, is that a good thing? Is that something like kind of cringe?
It's a thing. I mean, we've never been here before. We never had the opportunity to even have rappers have careers this long because rap is only 50 years old. So I think it's great. I'm glad that rappers are still putting out music because like there should be music for everybody. Yeah. Rap is like they say it's a young person's sport, which it's the only sport that's like always constantly evolving into something new, which is great. And I believe that there's room for that and that should continue. But just because, people don't want to listen to Yeet, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't get new rap.
Yeah.
They should still be rap for you if you don't want to listen to like Playboi Carti or Yeet or like Ian. It should be rap for you.
Yo, I think I said at this very table. I think it's funny because hip hop is like the only genre that does this.
You see, I was just gonna say that. Take it a step further. I want you to take a step further. You know, there's more to it.
Not my personal trainer challenging me. I want
to like black people do this, bro.
God.
But
we do this, bro. We do this, bro.
I mean, yeah, and I think you're right because I'm even thinking of the R&B stars, and I know people. It's always who wants to hear, who wants a new Shaka Khan album, or who wants a new, whatever. And it's like, I'm good with that.
When Smokey dropped, was Gasms?
To be fair, that was ridiculous. That was a ridiculous album.
You feel me?
That was a ridiculous album. I love Smokey Rock. I have a photo with him on Instagram. It's like, I only have like 12 photos on Instagram, and he's one of them.
And he made the 12.
He made the cut. He made the Last Supper. Let's go. But yeah, I think with the hip, like it's the thing we always feel like, the old heads have nothing to say, or, it's just you're past your prime. I think one thing that's interesting, if you look at maybe the M and Nas dynamic, I feel like Nas is, obviously Nas is, insanely talented, GOAT rapper, but I think the fact that in a way he's been shielded from some of the big commercial like pressures and expectations that, with that M for somebody has a very big like, okay, if it's not going to be as good as Marshall Mathers, if it's not going to sell, 1 million in a week, if it's not going to have these hit singles, what's the point kind of doing it?
Yeah.
Versus someone like Nas, who obviously has had commercial success, but more so has crafted his lane in the culture and the appeal and the acclaim. Mm-hmm. So it's not crazy when, a King's Disease comes out and you can still put that towards the top of his discography. Versus I think a cat like Eminem is always working against the grain. Like even with Jay, we always say the same thing, where it's, well, if it's not going to be as big as Blueprint or Life and Times or whatever, like don't even bother doing it. I think that's crazy for someone who spent their whole life, all these kids have been doing it since they were teenagers, maybe even before that, to say, okay, you're only as good as your commercial fortunes, and when you hit this certain age, stop. Like, we don't even need to hear from you anymore. Just hang it up and say, okay, you did your run from when you were 21 to 35, and we don't want any more music from you. Like, if you're a real fan of somebody, you should at least want to encourage and support that and see what it is. You may not like it, you may hate it. It may be worth the conversation of, nah, you lost it here, you should get with this person and that. But just to tell somebody to stop, that is like, and we don't do that. And nobody does that in country. Nobody does that in rock. Nobody does it in pop. Like
Bruce Springsteen still out here swagging.
It's Dolly Parton puts out people still going for that. Put her on the halftime show. Sure, let's see it. It's just like we got to get out of that.
Yeah.
Kyle,
I love it. Yeah. I love seeing older rappers do their thing. I feel like, to me, the conversation should have really even been deaded, I feel like, after 444, after the King's Disease series. Like, these were great, really great bodies of work that showed these rappers working at a different level of, not just skill, but their lives. They had different things to talk about. They were talking, about maturing and being in your 40s and your 50s and financial literacy and their kids and this and that. Like, that's a nice balance to the other topics that might dominate other genres of rap or other subgenres of rap. I really love it. I mean, even on the female rap side, Nicki's in her 40s and she's on this sold out world tour. Like, we should never really want any of our greatest, artists to stop unless they'd made a decision for themselves.
1,000%. And I think, you guys brought up Nas. He won his first Grammy.
I was just gonna bring that back up.
3 years ago, and then you got to think about
Imagine
also.
If he stopped. Like,
you got to think about Killer Mike. You got to think about Michael, what it did last year. He won three Grammys last year. He's really hitting his stride right now.
Right.
But I want to pose you guys this though: the disconnect we have been seeing, we spoke about it on the show with Meth at Summer Jam, with Busta at Essence. It is a real thing. How do you combat that as an aging rapper though? For those guys in particular.
Well, I think with some rappers, I think it's less about your age and more about the product that you're creating. Mm-hmm. For rap, it's such a genre that's powered by reinvention and pushing boundaries. Black music as a whole, it's very future leaning. We're not allowed to really rest in our laurels and make old type of music. We talked about this in one of the earlier episodes where Adele can make an album that sounds like it should have come out in 1962. Mm-hmm. and that's like fine.
Yeah.
If Beyonce did that, people would like, what the fuck is this? Mm-hmm. But I think for rappers, it's also like, are you pushing yourself to make something new? Nas links up with Hit Boy, who I believe is one of the most talented producers working today. He's able to do basically any type of beat you can throw at him. You can do boom bap, you can do futuristic pop, you can do anything. And he gives him this like really beautiful melody of beats that lean into Nas's comfort zone, but also like pushes him to do something new. Same thing with Jay-Z. Like he made 444, which is like right in the lane of like, here are some soul samples that we're going to chop up, but the way that No ID did it was so new and inventive that it you know, it felt novel and new. I think like if you're able to make things that feel new and feel like you're pushing yourself, people will fuck with it. People will like gravitate towards that. It's tough to say, you know, a guy like Method Man is great. Is Meth pushing himself to be, you know, new and reinvent himself? I don't know. I think that, you know, it's yet to be seen. I think the disconnect is like, one, for that show is like, who's the audience here? It's Summer Jam. People are very young. They're not really here for an old Redman Method Man set. But also like, what are you putting out there right now, right, for that audience? So I think it's more about the product than anything else. I don't think it's like these guys just are washed up, you know. Like Jay-Z's 1 year younger than Big Daddy Kane.
That's crazy.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like the music will get to who it needs to get to. I think we're just at a place in hip hop where we probably need to make a more conscientious effort to create spaces for different types of rap, specifically for older rap. Like there should be like an adult rap festival that, you know, comes around every summer instead of trying to fit everybody on the same bill on the same day. Like
an adult rap festival, I feel like I might feel some kind of way if I'm an old head.
I mean, we don't gotta call it adult. We'll give it a snazzy name.
The early bird special.
And I was even thinking about like Usher, like it could be like, I guess, a hip hop version of Lovers and Friends.
Yeah,
if it's framed like that.
Yeah. I mean, don't gotta be a dino. Y'all be insensitive.
I was low key trying to say like the old head.
I love old heads.
It doesn't have to be called like Old Nigga Festival.
Come on down to the ONF.
Yeah,
and you know what? I'll be right there with you.
We got a whole wheelchair section in the front. We got.
It's just how you market it to people and what you do. I think, you know, Lovers and Friends is a great example of that. And I think even like the way that it's written about, I think having, you know, outlets that focused on that in a way that is written for people who are of a certain age. Like there's a really good friend of mine, Jermaine Hall, founded a publication called Level. And that's only for Black men 35 and up. And I can't think of another publication that's like that. But I think as hip hop grows older and we, you know, move into this uncharted territory, as Kyle said, we're going to need these spaces both in real life and digitally where we can, you know, celebrate these people in a way that they deserve.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Let's get into our last topic of the day. Mr. Big Sean, boy.
Yeah.
Y'all wasn't feeling that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout
out to Big Sean, man. He was in New York, so you know what happens when you come to New York. You got to hit On the Radar. So he delivered an On the Radar freestyle over Aaliyah's "If Your Girl Only Knew."
Classic.
I mean,
it is
great minds, you know.
Classic. And you know, went viral. The one big thing was him potentially taking shots at Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
You know, that was a thing. DJ Head, who is like one of the go-to Kendrick guys, said, nah, I spoke to Sean. It wasn't a shot at Kendrick, but it was a shot at another Gemini.
Oh, Azalea Banks.
So I'm curious to hear, you know, one,
see that.
your thoughts on the freestyle, and then two, where is Sean in this current landscape of hip hop right now? Because I feel like it's kind of tough to define where he is. I mean, I could go first.
Yeah.
Because I have an affinity. I love Sean. You know, what he's been able to do with his mixtape series since back in the day before he really popped off with his debut album. I think Sean has had the talent to be a top 5 dude. I just feel like we have not been able to see it. It would come in flashes. The Detroit mixtape is a classic. I think DSP is a classic. But I feel like he's left so much on the table that it kind of leaves you yearning for more. Especially what he's able to do on the MC side. He is one of the purest spitters, easily. I would take from the blog era. And we were talking about it yesterday, just about the blog era itself. I don't even know if I would put Sean in the 5 of the top 5 blog era rappers.
Interesting.
Because I hold him. Yeah. I'm very big on guys like living up to. He's a potential kind of nigga. Like, you got so much potential, and you just don't live up to it. Potential is such a dangerous word because you have the talent, but if you can't live up to it, so you're just living in a world of potential of what you could be.
So what do you think what's missing? Like, what's?
I think it's over.
If
we're being honest, like, I think it's over. No, I think it's over in the sense of like
missed.
No, I think he missed it. I think he missed that window. I think and I love Sean to death. I had fire moments with him, interviews, but I think it's a thing where it's like he missed the chance. No. Probably not. But accountability needs to be made, right? Like, I thought Detroit too. I listened to it when I first heard it. I thought it was cool. Then I went back to it. I was like, I don't know if this was.
I like Detroit too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like
after what he was able to do with Detroit, and then the pushbacks that came with Detroit too.
It's
the
tough,
hardest
man.
record was a Nipsey record to me.
Yeah, it's tough for Sean. I don't. Like, you think about Big Sean. If you just wrote on a piece of paper, typed out on a piece of paper what Big Sean's career is, and like took the name off. He has like 3 #1 albums, a few other top 5 albums. A massive catalog of hits. He was like the guy that helped keep the lights on at Good Music. He's dated some of the most famous people in the world.
His resume.
He's just been like a pop culture fixture. On paper, all of that equals superstar.
If we had a rap Hall of Fame, are you putting him in the Hall of Fame?
I'm saying, like, on paper, he should be.
Shit, he had an album called Hall of Fame now.
On paper, the guy is.
Are you putting him in the Hall? It's like, it's an easy yes or no.
I might put him in one of the wings. Yeah.
You putting.
I feel like, here's the thing.
I guess I gotta know what
a lot of people make it to the Hall of Fame.
But that's kind of I'm like wondering, like, okay, are we talking like how many
slots
we got?
Not Mount Rushmore, but I'm saying
how many slots we got in the Hall of Fame?
It's a whole hall. We could fit him in.
Yeah, we can fit him in the Hall of Fame.
My thing with this is just like
Draymond Green's going to the Hall of Fame.
Draymond is a fucking fixture.
And Sean
Big Sean has a better career than
just
Draymond
listed
Green.
Off.
Big Sean has a better career
That's
than
ridiculous.
Draymond Green.
Listen,
so Sean got rings.
Yeah, he has. If the conversation we had about that, yeah, he does.
He has a ring.
He has 3 #1
No, I'm not counting. No, we're not doing that. I'm talking about like a classic
this is the conversation
album.
We had about this very thing.
I'm talking about classic. I'm not counting just #1. I'm talking about like classic albums. He has
you
DSP.
Just named 2 of them.
He has DSP. I'm not mixtapes. If that's the case, throw Fab in there. Fab should be in the Hall of Fame.
For all the mixtapes.
For all the mixtapes Fab has, and Fab has records. There we go.
That isn't the only way to quantify somebody's career.
Sean and Fab.
A lot more records sold. Like a shit ton more records sold.
That is very true.
A lot of records. Come on.
They both didn't live up to their potential.
Here's my thing. I actually think Sean has done fine with his potential. Like, this music thing is an ecosystem. We're going to have the giant people on top who like get to that spot, but that cannot be everybody. And that he just happened to not be one of those people doesn't mean that he doesn't have a fruitful, very, very, amazing career that he can just boast forever about. I feel like we just listed off his catalog and his resume. He's done incredible things and probably will continue to. I don't think necessarily everyone needs to be at the zenith that like Drake or Kendrick is at.
I'm not saying that big 3. That's a whole different discussion. But I'm saying even the battle for 4 and 5.
Well, who are you putting in 4 or 5?
From that blog, I'm putting Cudi.
I'm
putting Cudi. I'm putting Wiz. I'm putting Mac Miller. I'm putting Wale in that discussion. You could go
I don't even know
currency.
what to say.
You
I'm
could go
sorry.
currency.
So
Like,
you
what are
didn't
you grading
you
this
didn't want to count the 3 #1 albums, but you just listed people who don't have
No.
number one album?
Yeah, like I'm
I'm
curious,
not-
like what
I'm
your
not-
What's-
I'm curious
what's
what your
your
ruling
criteria,
is.
Rappers,
bro?
artists, success. Like, what's the
Like, what's
like
the-
like
so-
Cudi? Because I know Cudi's very influential. He does something different. Like, he's an artist. Like, in a way that that gives him
Okay.
that gives him
I didn't say. Listen. The people I named, I wasn't trying to say they eclipse Sean. I'm saying they're in the discussion.
Sure.
Yeah.
okay.
So I said that 4 or 5 slot for. And again, I'm talking about the blog era.
Yeah.
Blog era rappers. I think it's very open. He doesn't have like, I'm automatically locked in at 4. I'm not gonna put him at that. That's all I'm saying. I said the discussion is open to where you have a Cudi, you have a Wale. I think Wale and Sean. I think you could.
You could what?
I think it's a debate.
Not to me.
I don't.
I
think
like
so.
Wale a lot.
And
I think Wale is
No,
great.
so-
I think Wale is probably the best rapper who makes those like 90s R&B songs. Those like songs with like like an R&B person on the hook.
You want to talk about niggas just give participation awards?
Yeah.
Those songs are amazing. He has amazing singles. I love the album About Nothing and the mixtape About Nothing. I think he's made great music over his career.
He said he was spinning on chill. Let's go.
On Chill's hard.
On chill is
On
Those
Chill
songs
hard.
are
is
amazing.
hard.
No one can fuck with him when it comes to making those type of songs. I don't think. But no, I think Big Sean is just like a magnitude more successful than he is, and not just like counting success as success only, because Wiz is also his singles are massive.
Wiz had a
But I think
moment,
in terms
man.
of like just rapping ability.
Oh, we're
and
talking rapping ability.
I'm saying
Yeah.
the rapping ability combined with his ability to make hits, crafting albums. I think Big Sean is way better than we're giving him credit for. I remember when he was on tour with Cole and he like had not the opening slot, but he went on before Cole. He was at the Garden, and
He's a great performer, by the way.
I didn't know what to expect. I'd never seen him on a big stage before. It was incredible. It was just a string of hits. And I don't mean like, I remember that song. It was just like people were rapping out loud. He could have just turned the mic off and just let the crowd rap it. And I don't think, I as disclosure, J. Cole is a friend, and I don't think he could have done that at that time.
Question: how long ago was that?
I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. But what bearing does that have?
Not he said a prosecution rests.
What bearing does
No,
that
all I'm
have?
saying
that
is
just means that if you were to do that
he's
now,
not.
the same
not.
shit would happen.
He's not
10
gonna be at the
years
Garden.
later.
He's not gonna be at the Garden 10 years later. Is Sean
Says
gonna
who?
Is Sean gonna get a #1 album this time around?
I don't know.
That's
But since
wholly
y'all
dependent
talking-
on timing.
Since y'all throwing out, he had 3 #1 albums. Okay, so is he gonna get a #1 album this time?
He can.
He's not.
He can.
He is not.
He can. Let it be a relatively
He
weak
is
week,
not.
but yes, he can.
Sean, I love you, brother.
It's time. It's
I
a
wanted to
timing
give Sean a
thing.
cover
He
too.
always-
Like I love Sean. He is not getting a #1 album in 2024, 25. He's not getting a #1 album unless it's one of those #1 albums like he pushes 60K. It's
All
a
he
dead
needs to
week.
do is get like another bounce back type shit and like release it while the song's still hot. He'll be fine.
I mean, yeah, but to get another bounce back,
Trevor,
that's a.
I need you to pull your card out, brother. Can you do me a favor? Tell me the last top 40 Big Sean record. It's probably I don't fuck with you. It's probably I don't fuck with you.
It is
Big
not.
Sean
That's something from
record.
Detroit too had to have gone top 40.
Nope. Album went #1 though.
I mean, we're not talking. Toby,
You know
I
what?
guess. Are we talking Toby? You know,
No,
Yeah, I mean,
no.
Toby went.
I mean,
No, I'm
technically
talking
this week,
solo
you know-
Sean. I'm talking lead Sean record.
Oh.
I want to.
Since y'all want to bring up stats,
Regardless,
y'all
I
want
want
to
to
bring
add a
up
third
stats.
classic to his catalog that we haven't spoken about yet. 2088. We gotta
Fire.
bring that one up.
That's true.
So it was the moment.
That whole-
It was the
That's
moment.
and I feel like that is also a really interesting chapter in his career in terms of like how many people would be able to link up with an R&B girl, put out a joint album that strong that has such a hold on people to this day.
I agree.
I feel like that's to his credit as well.
And I feel
100%.
like what I would do, him and Janae's having a moment right now on tour, doing arena tours. Perfect time to just link back up. You guys had the kid, do that joint project, the sequel that they've been, talking about doing for some time, and then come back with the album. I'm gonna be fair, Sean. It was bad timing for him to put out that record he did during the feud because that
was a
shit just
good
got
record.
washed away. Good record.
Good record.
yeah.
Good
record.
He couldn't have predicted.
Right.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean, you
right.
you,
Gonna blow
you
up
got
like
the plans
that.
Just
like
have bad,
months
you had
in
very
advance.
bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, I'm still checking for you, bro.
But it's also like, all right, so if he's
I did a whole
that was 10 years
Bro,
ago,
we in the
but, like,
bounce back moves.
I think the last
for the record.
just like a quick cruise is moves that went 38.
Yeah.
From I Decided. But
You said what record? Moves.
Yeah, like moves.
I decided. I decided it was
Moves,
2016.
no favors, bounce back.
I decided it was
2017. The answer to your question is 2017.
Sure,
That's
but
what
like,
yes.
That's 7 years.
But who
very good.
who else in that conversation?
Wale
is
on
doing-
Chill was what 20.
2020.
And then what did that album do?
What did the record do?
I mean,
But you're
platinum
compartmentalizing Sean's
record.
success.
No,
but like
because-
using one stat to
but
like
I'm
make
saying that's
everyone else
7
seem
years
amazing.
ago. That's 7 years ago versus a record that was 4. That was a
That's
top
my
20
point. It's
record.
like,
That was a top.
but
Hold
I
on,
mean,
you giving me a number 38
but
record?
to Dane's point, it's like, okay, this album moment versus, a sort of one-off song that was a huge song, but it's of Wale's time. It's an outlier of that era.
Can you tell me the last Big Sean album that was fire? You gonna say DSP? That was 2014.
No, I have to look.
I feel like I liked enough, but I decided to say that it was fire.
2016.
And I said I liked Detroit too.
Oh yeah, I like Detroit too.
Yeah.
And it was #1 album.
Bloop, boom.
Sean, we love you, man.
Sean clearly does not love you.
I
This
love
nigga
Sean.
clearly does not
No, you
love
know what
you.
it is? And I've said it before. I'm always hard on the people I love. That's all I'm saying. I am hard on the people I love.
I still want to know again. What
I love Wale. What do you mean?
I just feel like it's just not clear for me. I feel like as long as I really don't know who the right producer would be, but I feel like if he locks in with a new
we're not
fresh
doing that again.
producer,
Because you know why? He did that with Metro Boomin, and that shit was trash.
well, then that wasn't the right matchup. Metro can't do that
He
with
can't have
everybody.
everybody.
Like, so it's a
but
billion
guess what
producers
happened
in
with
the
Metro
world.
after that? You get the link ups after that. 21, Fire, Future, Fire.
I just don't like the idea that
Even the Sean and Hit Boy. Nobody was talking about that. The little EP they got.
I like that too.
I had to mention it for you to say.
Because you're talking about albums.
I'm just saying in general.
You're making your rules as you go along.
I'm not.
Jesus Christ.
I'm holding dudes accountable. I'm holding dudes
Yeah,
accountable.
move the goalposts.
I'm holding dudes
Like,
accountable, man.
Jesus, you're like javeling the fucking goalposts. You're just like over here now. Like everybody can't be Cole, Drake, and Kendrick.
I'm not saying that.
So maybe
I'm
it's
not
just
saying
bad.
that.
That doesn't
vibes
mean
all
that your
around.
career is
I'm not saying-
not a success.
I just think he could have done more with the
Maybe
talent
not.
that he
Maybe
But
has.
my
this is
question-
That's
as good as
crazy.
he could be.
That's
not
crazy.
bro.
That's-
You're talking about
the good as he can be is
talent.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
I
though.
guarantee if you talk to Sean, and Sean would say this, like he feels he's just as good as them. Just
Sure,
luck
he
wasn't
can
on his
feel that-
side.
He could feel that
Luck
all
wasn't on his
day.
side,
But
sure.
I'm like,
Is.
just because you're not Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, 3 generational motherfuckers, 3 people who. That's 3 people out of how many fucking rappers?
So
Just
you
'cause
don't
you're
think-
not one of them
so
doesn't
you-
mean you're not as successful or that you're not good.
I never said he wasn't good.
People would
Yes, you
kill.
are.
No,
for
I never
Sean's
said he
career,
wasn't
man.
good.
Like,
I said he had.
That's the point.
like that's like people would literally murder for Big Sean's career.
Absolutely.
Like,
All
I
I'm
feel
saying
like that
is
alone,
he
like
it could have been more. That's all I'm saying.
Who's to say?
But what? I mean, just
Could have been more.
what's missing?
I think he could have. I think Sean is an artist. He could have easily had 3 classic albums on him.
he's not done.
But also how?
What do you mean how?
I'm saying like what would have made?
I
him
feel like
have
if you
a
have
record?
if even him doing the project with
Detroit,
Metro,
DSP,
he had a
2080.
chance.
I mean, you did say 2 already that you thought were classics. So
I just counted.
Oh, we kind of mixtapes.
sure.
All right, so Fab's on
You
that
don't
list
even
too.
look at that fucking
We're
man.
done.
Nobody worried
So-
about that.
That's not what we.
And that's the episode.
We appreciate you
We're
guys for
Thank you
kicking
for
it
enough.
this
I
way.
said,
Big Sean,
wow.
first off, bro, I love you, bro. It's just tough love, baby.
No, you look fabulous.
I love
Right,
Fab too.
right.
And Fab be
He loves Fab,
bullshitting. He be bullshit.
Like he wasn't that City Girls record. Bullshit. Love you,
will-
Fab.
All right.
Yeah, we will see y'all next week on another episode of Billboard Unfiltered.